Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. We're going to check in on the markets, pretty much just digesting sideways the Trump pump candle from last week, and we're watching to see, can we get bounce follow through over that resistance, or are we about to fade back to the lows with some bearish chip news that we had to end this week? We've got earnings coming up. Before we get to the charts, a couple quick things. Thanks for the likes and the shares and the subscriptions and all that. Number two, I did a long-term charts video on Thursday. That's on our YouTube channel. I highly suggest checking it out and all the other ones from the prior couple of years because they are good. And number three, someone in my town was scammed by someone pretending to be me on Facebook and using AI voice to pretend to be me. And this is the kind of person, not a helpless boomer. If you ask me the probability that this person would be fooled by this, I would say 5% or less. But they got him for $5,000. I'm going to pay him back because he's a good person and it means a lot more to him than it will to me in terms of significant negative impact. But this is coming. And, you know, I've got my code word with my family for anything money related. It's only going to get better. The scams are only going to get more efficient. So prepare with your friends and family in terms of trying to combat what is going to continue to get worse. Let's get to the charts. All right, so S&P 500 futures here, ES weekly inside bar. So again, just digesting. You see that Trump pump Wednesday candle, and we're trading around sideways. After the start of the week, I started to determine that the most likely scenario for me was an equilibrium. And oftentimes that's the case because it's the most common pattern in markets, especially after significant volatility. So I was looking for the 12-hour lower high. I was looking for the higher low, which hasn't officially been set yet. But I'm watching for the possibility that this is just going to tighten up and then give us a break Monday or Tuesday. If we have a bull move on Monday to set that higher low more convincingly, could take till Tuesday or Wednesday. Earnings season is going to continue rolling through. We've had the financial names start. We've had a couple healthcare names, and it's going to be big tech sector names now coming. Netflix reported end of the day on Thursday. A little bit of a bull reaction, nothing major. But got to be paying attention to upcoming earnings. NASDAQ, a little bit weaker, and the reason it's weaker is because of headlines. So again, 12-hour time frame on the futures chart came closer to this support level, but it too is still just in a tightening range. And I ended up grabbing some hedge position back in my IRA. So hedged up on the IRA, up near that all-time high wall of resistance, scaled out a bit early, but scaled out the majority of that into the wave of fear. And so now buying some of that back, and again, anticipating that 12-hour lower high on Tuesday, grab back SPXS, SQQQ into the IRA a bit. Now I'm back to a half hedge position because we can break this pattern bull or bear, and I want to protect if it's bearish. But I also grabbed a couple swing positions in relative strong names, which we'll look at in just a bit, just in case we break bull. So I got a little bit of both, and you know, if we get a big bull move, I'll stop out of that hedge, break even at this point. And if we get a drop down, then I'll stop out of my long swing attempts that we'll talk about in just a bit. But that's my approach to this coming week. And the news that we got was essentially, you know, NVIDIA and other chip companies will potentially be limited on what they can send to China in terms of a dumbed down analysis of the headline. And you could see specifically on Thursday morning, the weight, you know, the NASDAQ was trying to bounce and getting a little bit of bounce momentum. And you could just see that NVIDIA was just a weight on its shoulders holding it back. And we'll look at SMH here. Again, weekly inside bar. The 12-hour here, just as a comparison, you can see we got right down to that low and technically broke it. I consider that a double bottom. But essentially, it's semiconductors are on the verge of breaking short-term support. NASDAQ is closer, but still holding it. And the S&P 500 is the furthest away. It's almost like a degrees of impact for these different sectors. And again, NVIDIA, big drop after, you know, a double top at the bounce high. Again, the video from last weekend was the most important level is the Trump pump high. Do we break that? The answer for most names is no. The names where it's yes, they stand out stronger. But we rolled over, and same thing, we're testing these short-term supports. If they break, we're heading down back to that, towards that low of 86.62. So I am paying more attention to the semiconductors, knowing that they are team lead bear right now. And, that's what I do with the trading day. When I'm day trading, I want to find out who's the two strongest names, who are the two weakest names, and then I watch the ETF. All right, if the NASDAQ shows me signs of strength, I'm focusing on the two strongest names. If the NASDAQ starts to show me weakness, I'm looking at the two weakest names. And so this is just a zoomed out version of that from a sector perspective. And I would say the financial sector, which we'll look at, is the lead of Team Bull, and it is semiconductors clearly leading Team Bear. And that's going to change, right? That's the case for the last few days, or really the last week plus, but Tesla still tighten up sideways. So again, viewing Tesla, this is the most important base of support. We've got a lot of resistance here. You could just draw a downtrend resistance line if you want a little visual guide there. Daily inside bar. Oh, we got earnings Tuesday. All right. So that's going to determine things. Earnings Tuesday, we're either going to head back down to the 215 support zone on a bear reaction, or head up to this little double top. 262 is the first resistance level, and then against the Trump pump up at 275, we'll call it. But unfortunately, every time earnings season rolls around, there are very often really nice tightening ranges that I'm watching, and then it's just, great. The coin flip of earnings is going to dictate how this breaks, and that's not my edge as a trader, guessing on earnings. So essentially I have to abandon the setup when it's something I've been watching for a couple weeks, but it's going to be earnings that dictate the break. So looking like Tesla could potentially, that could be the case. Haven't traded Tesla as much this past week. And again, whenever, I'm not consciously doing it, I'm watching the screen, who's getting my attention. And then I look and say, well, yeah, Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday are two of the smallest range days in months. And so that's exactly what I want to be doing. I want to be trading more actively on wide ranges, big pie for me to get my piece, less active on small pies, a lot harder to get my piece of the pie. Financial sector. So why is it a lead bull? It broke the Trump pump high. It's really that simple. No other major sector that I'm watching did. Some did, I'm sure, but in terms of the impact of the S&P 500, again, we know it's, tech, semiconductors, financial sector, healthcare sector is the most important. But again, just comparatively, let's go to the 12-hour. Semiconductors are testing this level. So we can say, all right, well, if XLF were as weak as the semiconductors, we'd be down at 44.54. And we are currently 4% plus above that level. There is still a resistance. We broke the Trump pump high, but zero follow through. So we're still going to be watching this resistance zone. But from the daily perspective, I'm considering anything above 42.21 as a daily high or low. So we'll see, can the bulls, essentially this is all one bounce, can the bulls set the daily high or low and confirm a daily uptrend is the question that we have into this coming week. So if I'm a bear in the markets, I want the leader of Team Bull to fall off their horse. I just imagine them leading the charge, leading the bull army, and you want them to significantly weaken. And likewise, you want the financial or the semiconductor sector and NVIDIA to find a support level and shift things and turn things around if you're looking bullish in the market as a whole. Healthcare sector, topped out at the Trump pump, couldn't break it. Wall of resistance there. Look at all those tops. 4 days in a resistance zone of 40 cents. So essentially, what's that? A 0.25% range where we've rejected 4 times. That is the level. And we can say bulls prove nothing if we can't get over that. That's the statement for everything. Bulls don't prove a thing if you cannot break the Trump pump high. So we're going to look for a higher low compared to where we came from. Again, entirely possible for a tightening range. If you're looking for equilibriums after significant volatility, you're going to be right far more often than not. And so I'm just viewing this as, dump, bounce high, double bottom, double top, look for a higher low, look for a lower high. Could happen where we just tighten up all of next week. Earnings still matter for this sector, but again, tightening range. So the swing trades that I am looking at, Walmart was one that I grabbed some on Wednesday. Why? Because, number one, I'm looking to grab some dividend plays in the IRA. Number two, monster move, all-time highs, no red flags whatsoever on the monthly time frame. In fact, it's a potential monthly bull flag. Number three, clearly money was buying the dip. It did have a fear breakdown, with the market and then V-shaped and got back to the highest level in a month. And the vast majority of the market is nowhere near the highest level in a month. We are back testing previous resistance, trying to hold it as support. And so I'm looking for the daily higher low entry. And if the inside bar breaks bull to start this coming week, the daily higher low will be set. Got to get over 96.03 to confirm the daily uptrend. And I don't have the size of the position I want at this point. You know, if we break bull, then I'll be perfectly fine averaging up eventually on that position. But again, I'm a little bit cautious just because I don't know how this 12-hour tightening range on the NASDAQ is going to break. I have to look myself in the mirror and say, I don't know. Because so many times traders will get in trouble by convincing themselves of a narrative and then looking for all the clues that tell them, yep, this is the narrative that's correct. And then the other thing happens and they don't really have a game plan prepared for if they were wrong. So I take the approach of, I have no idea which direction that's going to break. I know what I'm going to do if it breaks bull, and I know what I'm going to do if it breaks bear. And I'm confident in my abilities where I'm going to benefit either way. I'll just have to maneuver a little bit to adjust for the information we get. Another name, and a bunch of these are, Bitcoin's had relative strength to the NASDAQ, and some of these names, MSTR and GME, both now crypto names, they have a good bit of relative strength. I mean, look at the Trump pump high. We're well above it on GME. Quick little daily high or low. And if we break 2738, daily uptrend confirms. Why I'm watching GME is bigger picture. This is a nice monthly tightening range. I talked about this in the long-term pattern video, but I'm watching for this to tighten up into middle of the year, and then GME volatility, maybe Q3, is going to pick up. So interested in GME. Again, smaller position because it's more volatile, and I grabbed my position on Friday, one of those days, Thursday, and because I was a little late, I didn't love my entry. I sold half of it into the initial move up, so my break even is now closer to the low of Friday. And again, another name I would add back to, but got to wait for more information. And MSTR, forget which day I got this one, but again, just testing this very key 320 triple top. But I'm looking for a monthly higher low right off EMA 12, this monthly chart, no major red flags. And so again, it's some of these names like MSTR. MSTR stands out with relative strength to both the NASDAQ and to Bitcoin. And again, one of the chart guys members pointed out, I see what you're doing with your swing trades, talking about the Bitcoin element. And I didn't even realize it. No, I'm just focusing on the relative strength, and the relative strength is in the crypto names, these two specifically at the moment. We'll see if that continues. That can change. MSTR had significant relative strength Thursday morning, but as soon as we rejected from that 320 triple top now, we dropped hard. Nice recovery into the end of the day, but again, it's all about 320. You got to get over that zone. It's a very clear battle zone at this point. I think that's all the short-term swing trades I'm watching at the moment. I've got a list, but that's it for me at the moment. Cannabis. So MSOS had a big green day on Thursday. Big green Marabozu, green volume. Are things changing? Is this the bottom? So first off, going back, I have not been interested in cannabis much at all because of the bearish reaction to the vote. That's the most bearish cannabis vote result that we've had in a long time. And so as soon as that happened, my mindset was the sector is now a short. And I shared that. I sold my longs and I said, this sector is now a short. We then dropped 50% from those gap down levels. I have never seen an entire sector have this much bear control. We have not confirmed a daily uptrend in over 5 months. I mean, the last daily uptrend was somewhere back here in October. So you're talking November, December, you're almost at 6 months without a confirmed daily uptrend. That's insane. We still don't have it. But why are we going up? Number of reasons. Number one, there's a little bit of unusual volume on 250 next week calls on Tuesday. I pointed that out or Wednesday, because the option chain is dead for MSOS. So when something stands out, and again, my thesis is options activity in this administration is going to be a more useful tool than at any point in history, potentially. Clearly, there's a lot of insider trading going on. And the amount of times, the NVIDIA, I've been very impressed with Twitter, people pointing out the NVIDIA unusual bearish options the day before the headline came out. It's easy in hindsight. There's a bunch of accounts that were saying, hey, look at this. This is standing out as glaring. And then you get the big headline the next day and a huge drop for that sector. So we're going to see countless examples. My point is, if anything meaningful is going to come from cannabis, you'll see it in unusual activity in options. So pay attention to it. In this instance, you had a bill reintroduced, States Act, I think. I don't care why, because the soonest that anything would happen with that bill would likely be a year. I mean, we're talking multiple years. So as anything with the cannabis sector, it takes a very long time. But it was enough for someone to buy 250 next week calls in advance and get a big bump and make good money on those. So we have a big enough move now where we can watch to confirm a daily uptrend. Whenever this move tops out, can we set the higher low and higher high? That's it. That's the information that we need. If so, we'll say, okay, something's different for the first time in 5-6 months. Key resistance is 275. I mean, there's just, look at how many resistance levels you can pick on the way down. But another factor is, I've been trading the sector for 15 years, 14, and it was a common thing for the penny stocks to put out, a press release on April 20th. And so I would buy 3 days before April 20th, and I would sell the morning of April 20th and make, 5-10%, whatever it was. So there's some potential for that. People hopeful, maybe we get some news on 420. And if we don't, maybe we see people sell on Monday morning this coming week. But again, bottom line, we know we're just going to look for a weekly lower high. And then we know we're just going to look for a monthly lower high. But if something's going to shift, you've got to change trends, starting with the daily. And then we'll talk about the weekly if the bulls can pull it off from there. And I traded this move. Shout out to Randy for posting that headline real quick. Able to grab some at 237, sell half, flip it. Little day trade win, but I can't take this sector seriously until they confirm uptrends or until there is a concrete fundamental change. Dollar, still weak, down near the lows, potential daily bear flag. After the weekly bear flag followed through in a big way. With that, the metals we know have been on absolute fire. Gold just on a tear. I am watching for a temporary top in gold. I'm not shorting a blue sky bull, but we're getting extremely overextended. We talk about the super stack indicator, which helped us find that temporary fear bottom when a bunch of names were firing daily super stacks like Amazon and others. And I am watching, you got daily super stack firing on gold, XAUUXG, I believe. Or no, it was the monthly super stack fired. So that tells us we are overextended, monthly, weekly, daily, 12-hour, 4-hour, hourly, 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute, all at the same time. And it was a good indication of short-term cooling off all those RSI levels. Is it going to be a longer-term top? That remains to be seen. But again, why I like the super stack is because it allows you to position on a shorter-term move, even if the longer-term move isn't playing out. Again, I'm not shorting gold, but I'm keeping an eye out. And there's been an inverse relationship the last 2 years between gold and Bitcoin, pretty clear. And so if Bitcoin's going to set the monthly high or low and the relative strength in GME and MSTR is going to follow through, I want to see gold top out. I want to see gold monthly consolidation for a monthly move up in crypto. We'll see if we get it. Silver, still trying to make its way back to the highs. We'll keep an eye out for the possibility of an equilibrium on silver if we get any more pullback to start this week. And the miners, monster move, but daily consolidation underway. We're going to scout a daily high or low. And again, clearly, if you ask from the fear bottom a couple weeks ago, who's benefiting the most? Metals and miners, definitely at the top of the list. Oil, some relative strength, closing up near the high of the week, stronger than the indices. Still going to look for a weekly lower high, anything under 72.28. Again, equilibrium watch. Because we bounced 50% plus retracement, we still going to scout the lower high, but it's a big enough bounce for the possibility that we get a tightening weekly range for a bunch of weeks. What's the energy sector doing? Very similar, a little bit weaker. Failed the Trump pump high on Thursday, but testing it. And natural gas, still looking for that monthly higher low eventually. Still slow fade bear. Again, I have no position. I'm not really interested anymore. I got my trade. Yeah, that's really it. weekly and daily downtrend, $3 support zone. If you're a longer term bull, you definitely want that monthly high or low to hold $3. And that's that. Establish your game plan for the week. Again, I am very open to both directions. We'll see how that tightening range breaks. Make sure and do good things. Check out those other videos. Protect yourself from scams. See you soon. I just walked right up on this dude. Maybe being a little greedy there. Leaves starting to come on the trees. It's spring. So we got this weirdo tree that's gonna try and stay alive and shoot those up. And this tree is actually alive as well. It's starting to put out little green things. So I'm gonna let it go and see if it can survive. Asparagus popping off. Peas just starting to get big enough to climb the trellis. Potatoes popping up. Almost time to plant seeds of non-cold hardy things. Frost risk is another 2 weeks.